Here it comes. There we go.
Yeah, it takes a little while for the old horse to get going here.
Well, it's getting to winter. I think the joints are starting to slow down a bit, yeah.
My joints aren't slowing down.
No?
My joints are seized up.
Well, I saw that on social media the other day. Two people sitting on a bench. And the one says, I just ache and my joints are just so terrible. The guy says, maybe you're rolling them too tight.
You got me on that one.
Anyhow, yeah, so much for the levity.
Yeah, well, today is the 5th of October, Season 3, Issue 28.
Ooh.
We're getting up there,
A little long in the tooth, I hope not. But...
Oh, gosh. It is, time marches on, and it seems to get faster all the time. Just one day after the next. I mean, it's like we did episode 27 just yesterday, and here we are a week and a day later, obviously. Yeah. And it's the cauldron of events continues to boil.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, I know you and I don't put much credence in polls until the actual day of an election, but
that's right.
I don't know how the U.S. is doing. Here in BC, we're almost on the statistical tie between the two parties. I don't know how it goes across
statistical ties. I think, Bob, if I could just interject, usually is what political parties say when they know they're going to be in deep trouble.
Well, they can spin it, but like you had mentioned the other day, the BC, we haven't had a conservative government out here since, well, almost 100 years ago, because there wasn't a conservative party.
Correct.
And the particular party now has, in the last year, has just risen dramatically. The other party that was sort of the conservatives folded. So it's interesting to watch the current party that's in charge try and blame everything on the government, the wannabe government that has never been a government in 100 years, but it seems to be that it's all their fault, and they're going to break promises, and they've raised taxes. Well, maybe they did 100 years ago, but it sure hasn't been in the last 10.
Well, the fact is that there's a lot of mischief that's been going on with these promises that were made. Mischief is a gentle way of calling it.
Well, again, the internet, gotta love it. Well, you don't have to, I guess, but a great picture. A septic truck going down the road, and on the back of the septic truck said, "Caution. This truck is full of political promises."
But today is a day of reflection on things like that Mother Nature can do things you never thought they could do. You were saying, how things are in the U.S. Let's face it, that Hurricane Elena, or whatever they want to call it, that is the black swan event, in my view, that has taken place in the U.S. and no one counted on that one. It had nothing to do with people. It had to do with a cold front and a warm front coming together, bumping up and destroying towns and villages and lives and expectations and opportunities in North and South Carolina and in Georgia and in Florida. But this wreckage that it left behind in lives lost and people missing, particularly in Western North Carolina, is just, it's astonishing.
Yeah.
How much damage has been done. And we have friends of ours who live in Black Mountain, retired there, and we haven't heard from them. Not that I'm particularly worried because I haven't heard from our other friends who also are,
Yeah.
connected to them. So I think they're okay. But you talk about putting a different perspective on the
Global matters. Yeah. It's
well, yeah, when people are hurting and are angry because their expectations of help from their government to deal with this calamity, and it really is a calamity there. It's Katrina all over again,
yeah.
and it's East Palestine all over again. And the only thing is, you got 30 days to an election here. I'm not sure if this incompetent bunch of bimbos who suddenly say that there's no money left in the kitty to help people there, and here's $750 and go toddle down the road. That's not a smart political thing to do. You're
Well,
going to you're going to
yeah.
get ordinary folks really nuts when they say, "Wait a minute, you just gave billions to Ukraine and to half the military is running around in the Middle East, and you're telling me that you can't bring out the National Guard to help here? You can't bring out you haven't got any money. This is not a good way to buttress
No.
your attempt to get reelected or
You know,
elected."
you don't want to bring up the past, but Katrina was how many years ago now? And I don't think that the infrastructure is back to where it should be.
No.
Those poor people are still living in squalor in some cases.
Well, it was
So
always
doesn't bode well for anybody now in the Carolinas or wherever that. Yeah,
no, it
I
doesn't
wish
go
them well, and I
at
hope
all.
to get things on track.
Well, history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but trends do. And it basically wrecked George Bush's election by flying over Katrina and taking a cavalier attitude, or at least that's what the media had presented as the case. The slowness of the Biden folks, at least from where I'm watching, to do anything about this, or at least again, I use the word cavalier approach to it, and then to start talking about we have no money to help these people.
No.
This is not a smart way to do it, and
No.
it's so forget all that. You have to have a certain feeling towards those people whose lives have been destroyed there. I mean, I've been looking at some of these videotapes that were done. It's heartbreaking to see entire towns just washed away.
Yeah.
Well, they had a meter of rain in 24 hours.
Well, and we were watching some the other night on TV, and you've got containers, sea cans, just those things are not light, and they've been bandied about and thrown, and they're inland, they're sitting on top of houses. They're like, holy smokes,
Well,
people better stand up.
It's heartbreaking. It's
Mm-hmm.
heartbreaking, and it puts things into perspective real quick.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have thought much about it, but within the last 3 days, well, last week for sure, but the last 3 days in particular, just off the coast here, although deep, about 16 kilometers, 10 miles deep, we've had a 4.5, a 3.8, and a 4.7 earthquake.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I think that's the first I hear of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
breaking news.
Breaking news, yeah. That old adage of it's not if, it's when, certainly rings true, especially when you start looking at the devastation that the hurricane caused. If we get the big one that they're anticipating, which apparently is 100 years overdue, because apparently the last big one was around 1700 along the west coast here. Who knows what devastation that's going to cause? You know, we've seen Anchorage, we've seen Japan, we've seen all kinds of places where people are left destitute, homeless. You know, it's not going to be pretty.
And you know, when you see that, which is an event that has nothing, it's not man-made. You have no control
No
over it.
control.
Earthquakes,
No.
hurricanes, etc. Why are there so many warmongers trying to do the same thing using nuclear weapons to make a point? I don't understand that. I agree. I'm digressing for a moment there, but that's just, you know, this you would think would send a message to people that this is, you know, let's not do this. You know,
Well, you know,
it's tough enough to deal with Mother Nature.
there's a couple of things with that. One apparently, we didn't see them, but apparently the big solar flares are causing the aurora borealis to places which they're very rarely seen. And one of the, I forget which site it was, but the flare was reaching out, who knows how many hundreds of miles, or maybe it was a million miles. Who knows how many miles are coming off the sun. And the Earth was kind of measured in just a tiny, tiny little thing in this flare. You know, we think we're pretty important and we're pretty smug in our nature here, but all it takes is for that big ball of hydrogen, helium, whatever it happens to be, I have no idea, to decide a little hiccup and we could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. All it has to do is fry all the transformers and power lines it has the not only the potential to do, but it's a fact, and all life as we know it within a month would come to an end, because 21st century man cannot live without the conveniences that he's developed over the past 21 centuries to make their lives convenient. Okay, I mean, the return to hunting and killing would come real quick.
Yeah,
especially in the urban area. So, you know, these are monumental issues that we could be facing, and we worry about the most trivial things through the media and on the internet, and our politicians, who I have less and less respect for as every passing day.
And I guess going back to our earthquake situation, it's not just going to affect British Columbia. That's going to go right down as far as California. That San Andreas fault is just a huge thing. And they're finding, like we always do, there's the best laid plans of mice and men, that we think we've got everything covered, and then all of a sudden an earthquake comes in and we're finding faults in zones that we didn't know were there. Apparently, there's a huge new one that's developed under the city of Los Angeles. I think nobody knew it was there. And you're thinking, well, there's an awful lot we don't know, particularly when it comes to Mother Nature's orb called Earth here. You know?
Yeah, this dirt ball floating around in space.
Went to a talk, Colonel Hadfield, our famous astronaut, and he said, I make an analogy that Earth is like a bowl of porridge. The inside of it is kind of ooey and gooey and mushy and moves around, and the top is a crust. And it doesn't take much to break that crust. And I guess, you know, that's really a good analogy, because put things in perspective, makes it think maybe we're not as stable as we think we are.
Oh no, we're, as human beings, as you know, we're mostly made of carbon and a bag of water walking around vertical, which doesn't make sense either. from engineering perspective.
Carbon tax on ourselves then.
Oh, I never thought of that. Don't say that, because there are dimwits who would pick that up and
put it in their political platform.
Taxed on your weight, how far you walked.
We just, we
Unbelievable.
just.
So I hear you're having supply chain issues because you've got flooring problems, and
Flooring
these
problems.
are the more monumental issues that we have to face.
Yes, it's just the joys of home ownership. Let's say it's a never ending battle.
But isn't that in microcosm what is going on? I mean, we talked about in pre-production. Here you have a floor that's 4 years old and has to be replaced. Okay, so that happens, but then why does it have to be replaced? Well, it was not well made. Well, okay, so then you go, I have to change that, and you're getting satisfaction from the manufacturer, but then you have the how long will it take? Who's going to do it? Are all the parts there for other things? And it really does reflect the world we live in today in many ways.
It does, yeah. You know, the old adage, when you're ready to retire, you'd like to hire somebody that would replace you, or you think could replace you. But the reality is nobody does the job the way that you do it. So you can't really hire yourself. You have to get used to the fact that I gave 100%, and the new 100% is going to be 90%. And then when the 90% becomes 100% and they retire, then the next less thing that happens is well, 80% seems to be okay. So 80% becomes 100%.
And that becomes the standard.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
So
sad.
it'll only go so far, and then something will happen, and we'll wake up to the fact that maybe this new 100% isn't really what it's all cracked up to be. Maybe we could be better. Maybe we should strive to be better, and maybe that's what this is all about. I don't know.
Well, the supply chain, quality of service, the experience and skill of the workforce, all those things are in flux constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it does reflect at a cold-face level what we face as a society, Western society, where we've started to kind of chafe at poor service, at poor quality, at unnecessary rules,
Mm-hmm.
at too much direction by people who have no idea what they're talking about. And so it's even in daily life now, we're running into basically stupid things that you never would have expected to happen in a society that should be evolving in a more sophisticated way. What we're doing is we're devolving in an unsophisticated way.
Well, it's strange, and I guess here in Canada, it kind of struck me as strange. We have one of the political parties that thinks that it's the government because it propped up the current government by voting with it, still voting with it. Surprise, surprise. Here we are, Act 2, Scene 1. But the one member decided they were going to make a bill to have it illegal to poo-poo the Indian graves across Canada. And if you said anything that was bad, you could go to jail. Now I'm thinking, this is pretty bad. We don't have anything like that to say the Holocaust didn't exist. And, people talk about that openly, and there's nothing ever done. People cringe, or they roll their eyes, or they do whatever it is, but there was never any legislation to stop people from talking like that. So why now is there something that has to go through there to say that it's okay to say it about the Jewish problem, but it's not okay to say it about a Native problem? We seem to want to have rules for everything. Right? Well, gee, here it is Saturday at, in my case, 8:30 in the morning, and We've talked about it on pre-production. 1984. We're going to have the 2 minutes of hate.
But Bob, you know your history. Way back when, there was a guy who said the Earth is round and goes around the sun. And there were people saying, you can't say that, because if you do, we're going to kill you. Okay, because the Earth is flat. What's the difference between, Aristotle's problems, and what we're talking about today? Yeah,
that's true. And to quote my favorite British group, Monty Python.
Yes.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
But it is. So listen, you got to go do stuff today. I know this. You got a big schedule ahead of you, and we also have to announce today, as part of our shorter version of the Border Pol Journal, our weekly get together over the fence, that there's some changes coming down the pike for us as well. We're going to wrap up our web page setup at the end of this month because of two things. One, we've discovered that it doesn't really do much for our program. Secondly, it costs money to keep a web page running that doesn't do much for our program. So we're facing certain challenges to keep this weekly get together on the air, and so we're now going to ask our readers, listeners, for a little more support going forward. Quite frankly, we need to have some financial support to keep the program on the air. We do this for nothing. Bob and I do this as a labor of love, and we like to chat with you and find folks to chat with. And if you like what you hear and like what you see, we need you to kind of think about how you might give us some support. So we have the Buy Us a Coffee program, which is up to you how much you'd like to support us. So we unabashedly have to tell you that this is, there is no fairy dust that comes down from the sky that keeps this thing running for us. And we measure our success by the number of people who are watching or listening, which is growing. That's not our problem. Our problem is that there's two of us. This is it. We have two other members, of course, within the organization as our board, because we are a nonprofit organization, and we really have no profits at all in this endeavor. So if you can support us, we would deeply appreciate it. And you can always write to us to ask how to or where you might be able to assist. You can write to borderpol@borderpol.org, and we'll get back to you, guaranteed. You can also, of course, go through Substack or Locals or Rumble or YouTube and get us in touch with us that way. But we're looking at this model as our future, but it has to have more input from you, the listener, you, the viewer. And we unabashedly have to say that we're not, we have no government support, nor would we accept any. And if there's any corporate support, we would accept it, but we wouldn't necessarily say that your product or service is good, bad, or indifferent. So that's, neutrality is in our discussions is not the purpose here. We have opinions, we have viewpoints, and we clearly have the viewers that are interested in it. So to stay on the air, we need your help. Just plain and simple.
Yeah, blunt but to the point.
Yep. So we'll be back next week. Give this some thought.
Well, it depends on the
on your
flooring.
flooring.
We may be incommunicado next week, depending on how
Oh,
quick we can get
yes.
our stuff done.
Ah, okay. Well,
I'll let you know. I'll send you a message and let you know how things are progressing. We may, fingers crossed, find out that they can do this particular job relatively quickly, properly, and be in and out hopefully within less than a week.
you see, readers, listeners, this really is a down home kind of show. You know, we have everyday problems just like you do. And when we come and visit or you come and listen to us, you know, we're facing the same issues.
Mhm.
All right. So until we meet again, hopefully next week, I'll tell you what, I'll put a placeholder in next Friday if you're not able to, Bob, and we'll just announce when we do come back. But in any event, we're still here. We'll still be around. Just little bumps in the road, like all things in life.
Yes. Yeah. And as long as it doesn't turn out that this molehill is a mountain, we'll be okay.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right. Until then,
Arrivederci.
adios.
Talk to you.